You ready to start schmoozing?
Let's schmooze.
Let's do it. So eventually the DACA rule will eventually come out. Yo-yo, for those who may not remember, President Biden reinstated DACA and allowed even new applications to be filed for people who had qualified for DACA and never made an initial application. The state of Texas sued Biden to say he did not follow the rules and regulations on how to make a change to an executive order. And as a result of that, the Texas judge blocked President Biden's rule change. Similar, by the way, didn't learn anything from Donald Trump. Similar to what Donald Trump did when he tried to end DACA.
Right.
That he made a final rule to end the DACA program also without following the proper procedures in which
I'm like, what?
to end a rule.
Why are they making the same mistake?
I don't understand that. So now that the I don't know if maybe the smartest people are not going into politics these days. I don't know.
I mean, don't they have somebody that actually
Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't know.
I don't get it. But so any event, so now because the DACA rules have been blocked by a Texas judge, they are still accepting renewals of people who are in the DACA program. What they're not accepting is new applications. President Biden finally got smart, and he actually followed the rules of making a change to a regulation. And there he is. Maybe he's signing a change in a regulation. Maybe he's signing a law there. Who knows? But ultimately, the way that a regulation gets changed or installed is you have to go through a rule-making process. We do not have kings in the United States of America. They just threw the Queen out of Barbados.
Yep.
We threw the Queen and King out of America, United States of America. I'm always, by the way...
Wait, when did we have King and Queen here?
Before 1776.
It was the King and Queen?
Yes.
Who?
Whoever the King of George.
Oh,
was
I didn't know that.
Yeah, before 1776.
Yeah.
Who ran the United States?
Yeah.
It was the Confederate States. And it was just separate states, actually. It wasn't even a confederacy. And it was ruled by England.
Oh, but it was ruled by England.
Right.
It wasn't like a king and queen here in the States.
The king was in London.
In London.
Just like in Barbados, the queen was in London. But it was still
I
part
didn't even know that.
Still part of the British Empire.
Definitely didn't know that.
We threw them out in 1776.
Dang.
The British have been thrown out of every decent place in the world at some point in time. Doesn't mean they're bad people.
No,
now I have nothing against them.
Overstay your welcome a little.
Yeah, I know. I have nothing against them now. But you think about it, they were thrown out of every decent place in the world at one point in time. Any event, since we don't have a king or queen, you have to go through a rulemaking process. And part of the rulemaking process is to publish to the constituents, the people of the United States of America, what the rule will be. And part of being in a democracy is after you publish what the rule is going to be, you allow Americans, U.S. citizens, to comment on it, whether they like the rule or they don't like the rule, or whether you should change the rule. And then when you do make the final rule, you have to take into consideration all of the comments that people made and say why I disagree, why we do agree, why we changed the rule per your comment, or why we didn't change your rule per your comment. And that way, it's a participatory situation where the common person, the person on the street, the U.S. citizen, the American citizen, can participate in all of the rulemaking that happens in the United States of America. And this happens with every rule that is made. That is the process you have to go through. And it is a process of months and months and months. And you have to collect everybody's comments, read through them, and then write a final rule going through all the comments saying, we agree with this, we disagree with this, we change this, we disagree with this. But at least everybody gets to have their say. And that's why Donald Trump never was able to remove DACA because he didn't go through that process. He just eliminated it by a stroke of a pen. That's why the Supreme Court overruled it. And then when President Biden came into office, he reinstated the entire DACA program and even allowed new applications to be submitted without going through the same process. So now they're going through the process.
Well, at least they're doing it now.
Right. And there's now 9,300 responses ahead of this Monday's deadline for public comments on the DACA rule. And notable among the groups that wrote in support of the proposed rule, which would solidify protections, including work authorization and deportation relief for all of the Dreamers, was a coalition of 24 state attorney generals led by the California Attorney General Rob Bonta. So you can also be a public official and make a comment as well. Representing territories including New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Illinois, Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., the officials touted the benefits the DACA recipients have imparted while costing their states relatively little money. Most of the comments were to make the DACA program permanent, either by law change or by executive order, never to have it rescinded. Now, it could always be rescinded by another president in the future if they actually go through the regulatory process.
Right.
The only way to make it permanent is for Congress to pass a law. And right now, there is no pending law for Dreamers. The only pending law in Congress right now is the Plan C. The Plan C is passed the House of Representatives. It's for parole. You have to be here by January 1st, 2011. And in the end, one person, and actually two people in the United States, are going to determine whether or not millions and millions and millions and millions of people can better their lives. Talking about not being in a democracy at that point when you have two people controlling the fate of millions and millions and millions of people's lives. You know who those two people are?
It's one, the parliamentarian.
The parliamentarian and Senator Manchin from West Virginia. Because basically every other senator has basically more or less signed on to the parole changes as being part of the budgetary process, the Build Back America plan. The only one who hasn't signed on to it, at least publicly, Senator Manchin from West Virginia.
Right.
And he said he will only do it
if the
parliamentarian does it. And we have not heard from the parliamentarian yet.
And she's going through her own personal thing.
Yeah, she's going through cancer treatments.
Right. Which is why, like, last time I feel like she just threw out the answer before she started her cancer treatments.
Yeah, so we don't know. We haven't heard publicly from her. My concern is if she turned down the first two.
That's what I'm thinking.
It seems like there's a lot of precedent to turn down the third one as well.
I don't see her passing it.
So I don't know why all of a sudden the first two is a law change and not a budgetary, a budget clause, and now this Plan C all of a sudden is a budget thing and not a change in law.
I feel like they both were.
All three of them are, quite frankly.
I mean, all three of them.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument both ways. I mean, you can make an argument that Plan B was not a law change; it's an existing law. They were just moving a registry date from January 1st, 1972. They're updating it to raise money.
Right. That's
so
it.
you could totally make that argument, and it's believable, reasonable, logical argument.
But she didn't take that.
She didn't take that argument.
The law.
Right. So Plan C is there's a parole process in place to give people parole on a discretionary basis. Now, what we want to do is we want to give people parole on a discretionary basis to everybody who fits into this category. That's going to be millions of people that get work permit, travel permission. You can make an argument that, we're trying to raise money by giving more parole applications out.
I feel like it's the same argument.
It's the same exact argument. There is no difference.
That's why I'm kind of
there is no difference between the second argument and the third argument from a legal standpoint.
Yeah.
So why is the parliamentarian going to say Plan C works and Plan B doesn't?
I don't see it.
If they do, it would be illogical. I hope they do.
I hope so too.
I mean, I'm praying.
But I'm just like, what's the difference?
So,
Yikes.
Meanwhile, today is World AIDS Day. The World AIDS Day comes 40 years after the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention officially reported the first case. President Biden delivered remarks today acknowledging not only those we've lost to HIV, but the resilience of the HIV community. He also unveiled a new national HIV/AIDS strategy. Now, talking about Hump Day, AIDS came out when I was 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
12 years old.
Yeah.
Before that, it was the age of love.
Right.
Everybody was hopping into bed with everybody.
Right.
In the 70s, the studio, if you see the pictures of the Studio 54.
All about
it was,
that.
Right. It was like the age of love.
Yeah.
And then just when I'm
Dang.
getting my first chest hair.
Yeah.
I'm getting my first chest hair. AIDS came out. All right. That's it. Everyone, keep your pants on.
Right.
That's what happened with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn.
You missed out.
I missed out. Well, it's 40 years since I just wanted to throw that in because it's Hump Day.
Right.
But it's true. It's 40 years since the first AIDS cases were first reported. Now, President Biden is marking this with a new strategy. The strategy includes preventing new HIV infections, improving health outcomes for people with HIV, reducing health inequity, and establishing a more coordinated effort to address the pandemic. All very laudable goals. I'd like to see the details of what...
I would love to see the details.
I would love to see the details of what he is actually going to do. It's great to say, you know what? We're going to make sure that everybody has money in their bank and everyone has a job. Great.
Right.
What are the details?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know what the details are. Maybe they've come out. Now, in its new HIV/AIDS strategy, the Biden administration calls racism a public health threat, which I believe it is. I don't know if it's overt racism, but it's like the underlying racism that, there's no question that minorities and, I guess structural would be the word I'm looking for. Because there's no question that minorities, black-skinned, brown-skinned people, their health outcomes are different than white-skinned people. So if you look at it, why, if we all have a heart, we all have 5 fingers, we all have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and 2 ears.
10 fingers.
10 fingers. What did I say?
5 fingers.
Well, 5 fingers per hand.
One hand.
So, I mean, we're all basically the same other than for a pigment change in a skin. Why, statistically, is it always year after year after year in the United States that black and brown-skinned people have different medical outcomes than white-skinned people?
Yeah.
Mortality rates, everything. Life expectancy. Why? Why? I'm asking.
That's a good question.
I don't know obviously, if, from 50,000 feet up in the air, it's obviously something structural going on. Okay. How do you fix it? How do you fix it?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. Well, at least one thing about Joe Biden, at least he's calling it as it is.
Yeah, at least he is raising awareness.
It's raising awareness of it.
That's
so
a good
even
thing.
though maybe there's no meat and potatoes to his plan yet, but at least he's raising awareness of it. He's bringing it to the forefront, that, there's a number of priority populations that are being left behind in this AIDS epidemic, including black women, trans women, people ages 13 to 24, people who inject drugs, and black, Latino, and American Indian, Alaskan Native men.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, it's raising awareness. We're finding out about different plans that they, that are in the works, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They are actually collaborating on a vaccine against HIV. So, we wouldn't know all this unless,
Yeah. Well, what they're using is the new Moderna mRNA vaccinations, where what Moderna does and Pfizer does is, rather than putting in a an actual virus that's dead that would cause an antibody response. The mRNA tells your DNA to actually make an antibody to fight this.
Yeah.
So they feel that using this new mRNA technology, which, by the way, first time it was ever used in a human being was for COVID.
So something came out of COVID.
Right. So something good came out of it because they say, you know what? This mRNA works.
It works.
And maybe, if we can tell the body to make an antibody against COVID, we can also tell the body to make an antibody against HIV. So,
but my opinion and my,
tell me your opinion.
I feel like they could have did this a long time ago.
You know what? If you asked me 2 years ago, I would have said, that sounds very conspiracy theory of you, Yo-Yo. But now, when I see how fast they were able to end COVID, which is a virus too. Now, not as complicated a virus because it's more like a flu cold virus than it is. HIV seems to be a much more complicated virus. But they were able to end.
It's still a virus.
Right. They were correct. They were able to stop this virus with not only a vaccine, but also they're now coming out with pills for cures. All within 2 years.
Yeah.
But they weren't able to do anything for a vaccine. They came up with pills for HIV to keep people alive for their life and treat it like a long-term medical issue, kind of like diabetes.
And now they recently, within the past couple of years, came out with pills to help prevent you from catching it, but it's
now,
all recent.
Yeah, but now looking how fast they did it for COVID, you say to yourself, maybe, Yo-Yo, and I don't know for sure because I'm not a scientist and I don't know what they're doing, but maybe if they put the money and effort behind what they did for COVID than they did for AIDS, we'd have a lot more people alive.
I agree.
So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is providing funding for the collaboration between Scripps and Moderna. Moderna is the company that came out with one of the vaccines. Scripps is a research company in La Jolla, California, that is also working on HIV, the HIV infection. It has invested $52 million in CureVac in 2015. CureVac is perhaps one of the ways that they're going to try to combat HIV. But you want to know what? $52 million is a lot of money. They put billions and 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 a ton of billions in COVID.
Yeah.
They can put a little more.
I agree.
And of course, the Supreme Court heard the oral arguments today on abortion.
Yes.
And you know what's most likely what is going to happen is that they will allow the Mississippi law to stand. And that's what it appears right now based on the oral arguments. There are 6 conservative judges, 3 liberal judges, and now the only question that is going to be is, do they completely overrule Roe versus Wade, or do they only answer the question of whether or not the Mississippi law is valid law? Either way, what will end up happening is abortion is going to be legal or illegal based on the state in which you live. It's going to end up being a state-by-state situation. And I can tell you that the red states, the states that go for Trump, whether it's Mississippi, Texas, you want to call it Alabama, New Orleans, Louisiana, Kentucky, name them. All of them, after this decision by what would it be expected by the Supreme Court sometime over the summer, will allow half of the states or more to limit abortion, like Mississippi, to 15 weeks, or if they overrule Roe versus Wade, to not allow abortion at all.
Sheesh.
Now, not allowing abortion at all and saying you can only get an abortion after 15 weeks, there's not much of a difference there. All right? What is 15 weeks? 4, 8, 12 is 3 weeks. 3 months, 3 months, 3 weeks.
Yeah, almost 4 months.
The first 2 weeks, all right, because you measure the pregnancy from the last state of menstruation. From the last day of menstruation, the woman's not pregnant yet. Mm-hmm. Woman gets pregnant usually 2 weeks later, 2.5 weeks later, 3 weeks later. Then they don't even know they're pregnant for weeks and weeks and weeks after till they miss their next menstrual cycle. And then a woman has, under the Mississippi law,
probably like
2-3 weeks
to
decide. And not only that, I'm not a woman, but I could only imagine finding out that you're pregnant and saying, oh my God, I'm pregnant. What do I do? That is, do I keep this child?
Right.
Do I not keep this child? If I keep this child, how am I going to support this child? What's going to happen to my life? Is the father going to help me? Is this from a rape? Is this from, who knows?
Right.
To make this type of decision, which in essence could possibly be the most important decision a woman could make in her life. As important as any other decision a woman, you give me another decision a woman could make in life, whether to keep or abort a child. There may be some other decisions that are equally important, but I can't think of something that trumps it.
Right.
And then to give that, and then knowing the emotions that go into all of this decision.
On top of that.
On top of it. And then being told you have 2 weeks to decide.
By a man.
By a man. And not only...
That's wild to me.
And by the way, you have less than 2 weeks to decide because you decide in 2 weeks, hello, abortion clinic, I'd like to...
You still have to make the appointment.
You got to make the appointment. You got to go in.
Right.
It's not like I decided and the baby is done. The pregnancy's done. So you got to decide before. You got to decide. You see, you do those home pregnancy tests and you get the 2 lines on the on the stick. You got to decide that moment.
Right.
Within a day, because you can't just call up the abortion clinic and say, it's too late. So what's going to happen, based on what's going on with the oral arguments, at least in the Supreme Court today, is it's going to be state by state. So the states that are more liberal, the states that vote Democrat, the states that voted for Joe Biden, such as us here in New York. Wow, my thing is coming out here. Such as us here in New York, Massachusetts, California, abortions will always be available. And that is a choice a woman is making. We always have to also remember in the end that what we are fighting for here is a choice, not abortion. Meaning no one's saying just because you have a choice whether or not to keep this child or not means that you're going to choose to abort a child.
Right.
What you're saying is that it is not for a politician or a man to tell a woman what to do with her body.
That's wild to me.
This is your body and your ultimate decision based on your morals, your religious beliefs, and your situation in your life.
Yeah.
That's all people are fighting for. Individual freedom. When it's amazing, I find it amazing that you find the, ultra-right arguing, I don't want to take a COVID vaccine because I have my freedoms. I have my freedoms. And you can't tell me, government, what to do with my body. Right? That's their argument. And here we are, the U.S., all the conservatives saying, we're telling women what to do with their body.
That's crazy.
Right? It's so illogical. It's hypocritical.
And it's wild because you getting the vaccine is helping other people.
That's right. You're saving lives.
You're
right.
saving lives. But you telling a woman that she can't get an abortion, her aborting a child for her own choice is not hurting anybody else. Like, that is her choice. You know, it's wild to me.
Wild.
It doesn't make it doesn't feel like it should be happening in 2021. I could see this happening back when we did have a king and a queen.
Correct.
You know,
right?
But
it's not wild. It's illogical. It's irrational, and it's hypocritical, and wild at the same time.
I feel like all that falls into the wild tree.
Yes. All
Trifling.
right. And there was a shooting in Michigan. A 15-year-old boy was charged today with murder, terrorism, and other crimes for a shooting at the Oxford High School in Michigan. Killed 4 students, injured 8. And a 14-year-old girl is still in critical condition on a ventilator. The rampage was the deadliest shooting on school property this year. The sheriff, Mike Bouchard, later told reporters that the boy's parents had been summoned to the school before the violence. The teen, Ethan Crumley, who is now charged as an adult with murder, attempted murder, and terrorism causing death, was in the meeting with his parents. So obviously,
that's him?
Yeah. So obviously he was being brought into the meeting with the parents because of some disciplinary or educational issue. Mm-hmm. And I read, and I don't know if this is a fact, Jill, if you can tell me in my ear, but I read an initial report that Ethan got the gun from his father, who bought it for him as a present.
What?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And the father...
Throw the parents up in the trial.
And the father bought this 15-year-old, not a hunting rifle, a semi-automatic handgun. What does a 15-year-old boy, especially one who's having problems in school, but any 15-year-old boy, any person, but certainly a child who doesn't know how to handle his emotions, a child who doesn't know how to handle maturity, get a semi-automatic handgun. What do you need to shoot with a semi-automatic handgun? I don't get, they say I need it to protect me and I need it because I have a right to hunt. I don't know why you need to shoot 1,000 bullets a minute to protect yourself. And I don't know what deer needs to be shot 1,000 times in 3 seconds for sport.
That's wild. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, deputies rushed to the school around lunchtime Tuesday, arrested Crumley in a hallway within minutes of the shooting. McDonald, who's McDonald, Jill? The prosecutor, McDonald, strongly suggested that more charges are going to be filed. She said, "We are considering charges against both parents, and we will be making a decision swiftly. Owning a gun means securing it properly and locking it and keeping the ammunition separate." The 4 students who were killed were identified as 16-year-old Tate Meyer, 14-year-old Hannah St. Juliana, 17-year-old Madison Baldwin, 17-year-old Justin Schilling. All, I'm sure, wonderful human beings. They had their whole entire life ahead of them.
Their whole life.
Okay, they just started.
Could you imagine?
There's no reason for any of this. Just, you know what? The world makes me sick. Yeah. Everything makes me sick.
Yeah.
Everything we've talked about makes me sick. Why is there no DREAM Act still passed?
Right.
Why can't they pass any sort of immigration reform? Why don't we have any funding for AIDS? We could have finished this years ago. Why are they ending abortion?
Why can't we get gun control?
Why can't we get gun control?
It's like, why? Wednesday wise.
This is Wednesday wise.
Why Wednesdays?
It's very depressing. And of course, we have to talk about COVID.
Oh, great.
Today, the first case of Omicron has been identified in the United States. Get under the table, yo-yo. Omicron is here. In a news release from the CDC, the individual was a traveler who returned from South Africa on November 22nd. Let's freak everybody out more before we even know what Omicron does. Right. We're freaking the hell out of everybody. And they've been found in Europe, Middle East, South Africa. It's going to go all over the place. Okay, but before we freak everybody out that Omicron's in the United States, of course it is, and everybody freaks out, the scientists come back to us in a week and tell us what we're dealing with here?
Right.
Before we all freak out? And on Monday, it was announced that the Webster's 2021 word of the year is, of course, vaccine. In 2020, the word of the year was pandemic. So we went from pandemic to vaccine. It's actually quite, I don't know, ironic. It's not funny, but I don't know what the word is. But the words of the year seem to mimic everything that's going on in the world. We just have to look at the Merriam-Webster dictionary for the words of the year for the last 50 years, and we know what's going on. We have a whole history.
That is true.
And by the way, it's determined. You know how they determine the word of the year? I'm just looking at this now.
I never knew.
I never knew either. I'm just reading it now. It's determined by data. Okay? It's determined by the top lookup at merriam-webster.com in the last 12 months. So it is the most looked up word in the dictionary for the last year. So people are going to the Merriam-Webster dictionary online, and they want to know what the exact definition of vaccine is. And that is why they come up with the word of the year. Last year it was pandemic. Now, lookups for the word vaccine increased 601% from 2020 and 1,048% from 2019. I never thought I'd say this, Yo-Yo. Me and you have to have a conversation about sex.
Oh, Lord.
It's hump day.
Let's do it.
Oh, Lord. Are there
It's hump day.
Are there camels anywhere?
It's hump day.
Dwight Davis, can we get to the immigration cases? I have questions. And Dwight, just relax yourself, okay? We'll get to you. People demanding.
Very demanding.
Very demanding. We'll get to you, Dwight. We'll get to you. All right? Give us 5 more minutes, 10 minutes. We'll get to all your immigration questions, I promise. So, apparently, tourists are having sex on a Spanish beach behind the gradual destruction of a beach and nature reserve in Europe. The Dunas des Maspalomas Special Nature Reserve on the Spanish island of Gran Canaria is known for its very large sand dunes. And apparently these sand dunes are blocking the, are in between, I guess, the parking lot and the beach. And you can't really see what's going on in the sand dunes as you're going up and down. And so people feel it's very exclusive, and they want to have the experience of having sex on the beach, but a little privacy. So they're all doing it in the sand dunes. So researchers inventoried 298 sex spots. They're calling it sex spots on the beach, over 2 square miles. They found that tourists are coming for sex, and not only on the dunes, but they're ruining the native plant species, and there's a lot of trash being left behind. Probably some rappers, and now it's a huge problem here on this island. So the Gran Canaria hosts more than 14 million people. Obviously, not everybody's having sex on these dunes.
Right.
But Patrick Hesp, who is one of the authors of this report, who's cataloging all the problems these sex tourists are giving this Spanish resort, he says, we're not calling for an end to public sex, thank God. If you like to do it, do it. But we do want people to be aware of the damage you're causing to the beach. And one couple having sex on the beach, he wrote, is one thing, but having hundreds converge on the same area every day, it's like an orgy going on over there.
It kind of is.
Yeah. Meanwhile, athletes from Cambridge University have stripped naked to pose for their 2021 calendar. The pictures are part of an annual tradition at the university, which this year saw 78 students from 12 teams bear all and pose in the city's world-famous site nude. The tennis team posed at Cambridge's Earth Science Museum for a July page. Do we have any of these pictures?
I saw these pictures, and they are very racy.
Are they racy?
Yeah.
Do we want to see them?
Yeah, they're pretty hot.
All right, so this is who? The tennis team?
No, this is the volleyball team.
Oh, that's the volleyball team.
That's the tennis.
Oh, that's tennis. One picture shows a tennis player outside the Earth Science Museum. Another has 5 flexible athletes doing handstands and splits. The men's volleyball team posed at the famed Churchill College for the September page. I'm going to tell you something. You know what goes on in the UK? They're very randy over there.
They're very randy.
Very randy.
Can
UK.
you imagine this is your school's calendar?
Yeah.
What?
The men's lacrosse team posed among...
Look at this.
Wait. I got to actually show the picture to my son.
Oh,
Zach.
the lacrosse team?
Yeah,
They
have a men's lacrosse team. They posed among statues.
This is the lacrosse team.
This is the lacrosse
would he do
team? He would never do it in a million years.
He ain't cool enough then.
Yeah, so the men's lacrosse team posed among statues at the Museum of Classical Archaeology for February. Zach plays on the men's lacrosse team at Whittier College in California. Thank God they do not. Whittier College lacrosse team does not do.
Could you imagine?
Oh my God,
could you imagine playing them like it's being like, oh God, we're about to play Cambridge.
Gotta play this naked
like,
lacrosse
look at the
team.
boxing team.
Yeah. Gotta play this naked lacrosse team. All right, and we have time for one more sex story, hump day story.
Do anything without penis. It's just too much.
Yo, they're all penis stories in the end. Do you want penis story 1, 2, or 3?
1.
All right, here's 1. Let's see what 1 is. Oh, this is backwards. Here's 1. Okay. A doctor has told the world how to tell a man's penis size just without even using a ruler. I'm scared. I'm scared to know. A doctor has divulged an unconventional hack to gauge the size of one's manhood without having to drop his trousers simply by looking at his hands. My hands are under the table now. A virtual TikTok clip of the member measuring shortcut has topped 915,000 views. Dr. Karen Rajan, who goes by Dr. Karener on TikTok, said in the 27-second Sexplainer, you can guess the size of a man's cactus by how short his index finger is. The doctor cited a 2011 urological study in the Asian Journal of Andrology, which he said found that a shorter index finger compared to ring finger correlates to a bigger schnozzwaggler. Okay, so wait a second. I'm keeping my hands below the desk right now.
Yeah, mine too.
Okay, I just want to measure. 1 second. See which one is your 1 second. You have to, the man's cactus, by how short his index finger is compared to the ring finger. So the shorter, so in other words, if you have a ring finger, I'm not showing you yet. If you have, I have a fist now.
Right,
if you show,
Fists.
1 second. If you're,
I don't believe this.
I got to get this straight. A shorter index finger compared to your ring finger correlates to. All right. So in other words, if your ring finger, which is your 4th finger, is bigger than the finger that points like this, you would have a big schnozzwaggler.
Okay.
If, on the other hand, your ring finger is shorter than your index finger, then you got more of like a Trump knob. Right? A Trump knobby knob.
Oh.
I'm going to go look at my fingers now.
Do you have to look at your fingers?
I am going to look at my fingers. I have never looked at my fingers before. I'm scared. Oh, I'm okay.
Okay. It seems like I'm okay down there.
Yo, I'm okay.
So, seems like I am as well.
Yeah, look. Get a close up of this one. I'm okay. My ring finger's bigger than my index finger.
There we go.
Thanks, Dad. And there we have our hump day.
Oh, my goodness.
There we have our hump day. Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.